Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the After Hours Gaming League Season 2, Week 1, as we are about to step into Microsoft versus EA Game Number 2. And in the bottom right position, we have Heresy, the beast from Team Microsoft, against one of them newcomers. It's Meva. Spawning as that blue Terran up in the top left right now. Team Microsoft up 1-0 after a brilliant performance by the fellow known as Megumi X Bear. Now, Meva is going to have to pull himself a nice comeback here on Arid Plateau, and it looks like he's going to do so by trying to re-rally as much as humanly possible. Now, on this map, there's a very interesting question of how do we take our third expansions? And you might say something like, oh, I know, Day 9, we use an SCV. Goodness, that is not wrong. But we want to be right, don't we? The question is, which third do we take? This third over here, it's a little bit more cupped in, which would imply that we should take this fourth over here. Or do we take this third that's up, pushed far back into the top right, where we have this awkwardly placed gold expansion? Both of them have their benefits and problems. This one much more open from an attack by ground. This one much more open from counterattacks. We'll have to see how these players end up developing their strategies. Meva looks like he's opening with a barracks. Always a good choice if you want to win. And down here we see, looks like Heresy opening up with a barracks down here in the bottom right from Team Microsoft. For any of you who love the idea of color coordination, the red team will be Team Microsoft in this series, and the blue team will be Team EA. The people that you are watching play are indeed employees of these respective companies who are battling on the virtual battlefield, not just for a chance to donate to a charity, but more importantly because StarCraft 2 is awesome, and they enjoy having fun. Such notable other companies, I would like to label Twitch TV as one that is participating, and if you've ever wanted to know what happens when DJ Wheat sits down and fills himself with that competitive vigor, then you need only go to AHGL.tv. Heresy now getting his orbital command, not too much of a deviation from either player at this point in time. We are, though, seeing that it looks like mining a little bit of gas. No player is going to be going straight for any sort of early expand with no gas. Now, there's a reactor going down. Reactor's always very useful in the 1-1-1, but this isn't Terran versus Protoss. Meva displaying some nice little control there. There's a number of things that Meva could follow this up with, most commonly a factory to get extra tanks, help put a little bit of pressure on with those high marine amounts. Looks like Heresy doing a little bit of micro of his own, but continuing to build a second marine instead of that reactor. There's the... Ooh! Here's an interesting transition from Meva. Going for the early expand after the reactor barracks. He can get a lot of marines up. He can follow it up with a factory. That's the most typical one. He can even build that factory right on that reactor. In the meantime, it looks like Heresy is basically declaring, I hate bio, and is lifting off his barracks, skirting it away to the top left side of the map, also building a command center of his own, but it looks like Heresy is going to be stepping a little bit ahead in that factory production, planting it down well before his opponent, even pulling some dudes off gas to get enough money quickly enough for that factory. Second refinery going down, Heresy almost certainly doing something involving the metal this game. Going to avoid use of barracks altogether. In the meantime, Meva is starting to pile up many of Marines, getting himself a factory, also getting his second refinery. This would be more typical of him getting a starport up to get medevacs, Vikings, perhaps to do an early push. Looks like Heresy will be doing the Scout Racks, as though this is Brood War Terran versus Terran. Any takers? Anyone like Brood War? Ah, you guys in your new school games. Looks like we do see that first SCV for Meva, has popped by the expansion. Not surprising to see nothing there yet. I mean, if Meva hasn't moved his expansion, it's not unreasonable to assume that our opponent hasn't moved his either. But look at this, double factory production. No add-on on this factory. In terms of impersonations, we had a Demaga player last game, and now we have a little TLO-looking guy. Heresy tries to show up and roast those Marines a little bit, but nearly just dies in the process. So he's going to be pulling right on back home. And it looks like Meva playing as standard can be, getting Tech Lab on the factory. Going to be finishing up a starport. Will he go medevac? Will he go Viking? Either one is equally appropriate. Or perhaps he'll just be a big jerk and build Banshees. Ah, that big jerk's getting a Tech Lab. The team Microsoft Terran now finishing up his second factory, still has done nothing but produce Hellion after Hellion after Hellion. The armory now getting planned for Heresy. Looks like he wants to build Thors. Excellent choice. Allows him to be aggressive. Love an early Hellion Thor pressure. There comes the factory down to that natural expansion. And in the meantime, Meva continues to collect his Marines. He's spreading them out. Yeah. Helping to avoid against any kind of Hellion drop, because few things make you think you're bad at Starcraft faster than when 6 Hellions walk right into your mineral line. You don't have any units that are as fast as the Hellions. You're just looking at them move in. You're not even controlling or re-rallying. You're just getting mad. And if there's one thing Meva counters well, it's getting mad. In the meantime, great positioning by this barracks. We see the Viking from Heresy doing a nice little patrol trick on this left side to help spot for any sort of drop. Interestingly, the player who's going mech has more control over the watchtower. Thors will potentially be popping out. If you go for those early siege tanks, it's a little bit hard to do much with them other than hang out at home and be a little bit defensive. The Thors have the versatility to deal with the opponent who does make the occasional Banshee. Right now, Meva is starting to move out, and it looks like Meva identified very early. Oh, with a money scan in the main, sees that mech's coming up. He ain't messing around. He's getting the Marauders and Siege Tanks up. We've seen Thorzane loves going a nice mix of Marauder, Marine, Siege Tanks against a meching opponent. Let's see how Meva follows it up. It looks like he has that very Bomber-esque mix of a factory, and then 2 barracks, one with Reactor, one with Tech Lab. I hear that there's an MS Paint photo that helps illustrate that distribution. Heresy is again going for those metal units. The Viking, the Hellion, now the Thors are in production as well. 1 siege tank incoming. Building a couple of missile turrets. Well, actually it looks like just a single missile turret in the main and a single one at the expansion. Neither player really doing too much right now. There's a few too many potential threats that they're both trying to negate. Meva building his engineering bay, building his supply depot, doesn't want any sort of drop of Hellions to spring in, still keeping his Marines spread out, most of his units left in the main. So easy to autopilot clump there at the front, but not Meva. Ooh, is Meva going to kick into action now? We've been 10 minutes into the game, and these players have basically just done not that much. I mean, in terms of all these tabs of data and information that I have, it just says that we have 2 players who are both with a pulse sitting down at a game of StarCraft. Ooh, now here's a telling move by Heresy. It looks like he is now building sensor towers out. This would generally indicate that he wants to begin attacking in a moment, just wants to make sure that there's nothing going to swing around on the right flank and mess him up. Now Meva moving forward. Nice mixture. 1 Marauder, 2 Vikings. Can easily pick off a single Viking that would be doing a little sneaky patrol. And of course, snatch up this watchtower. Definitely think that it looks like our Meva player, our bio player, will be taking this as his 3rd expansion. But here comes Heresy. Has that solid mix of units. And as you can tell, no Blue Flame upgrade yet. Still at 14 damage versus light. And uh-oh. Little bit of aggression going on. Looks like many a barracks planning down for Meva. Is he getting any upgrades? No. Ugh. Makes me frown. Anytime I see an idle engineering bay, that's just like a cat that's never been pet before. That just doesn't make any sense. Oh my god, yes! Pet the cat. There it is. Engineering bay going down. Another engineering bay going down. Fantastico. And it looks like Heresy, interestingly, taking this far left expansion. Looks like he wants to be gearing up to take his gold, but I'm so worried about some sort of Marine Marauder counterattack. Could be a little bit of a threat as well, but with those 2 sensor towers up at the very basic level, we see an almost Venn diagram of coverage down in the bottom half. Meva, with a lot of tech labs, will be hitting the Marauder button this game. Looks like only a single barracks is making the reactor. Just mass Marauders to try to help him obliterate those lines. We haven't seen any siege up from Meva yet. Looks like Heresy trying to poke out into the center of the map. Looks like these Vikings from Meva also helping to get a little bit of spotting. Meva just going to go right in the cleavage of these 2 sensor towers and try to see if he can get a good angle. Heresy now starting to move farther and farther forward with these tank lines. Not getting too overeager. Is leaving a couple at this backside, just making certain that all's well and all's safe. Where is any expansion command center? Oh no, it looks like Heresy hasn't even begun an expansion command center yet. This could potentially be a really big problem. Because Heresy is doing a check up on these back expansions, but he hasn't even checked for this third base. And again, we see another command center popping up for Meva. And there's the reactor starport. Looks like he's going to be kicking into the medevac tank gear. There's the scan. And there's the stim forward, trying to dart right into these tank lines, but is it going to be enough? We see that these mech units are in a great position. There's the siege up, and oh no, Meva will end up pulling back slightly, but there are a lot of metal units starting to trundle forward. Looks like Heresy has a few too many siege tanks. Its Thor count, if it were one higher, would be able to start advancing forward. We see that there's sensor towers everywhere around the map, taking out the central one, helping to cut off some of that vision. Meva having a few independent marauders doing completely voluntarily on their own accord, marching to their death. I hope they signed a release form. More marauders popping up from Meva. We see, oh, two depressingly idle, lonely, neglected engineering bays, upgrading nothing but yearning for that E and A button to be pressed. Yeah, you get it? Weapons, armor, alright, cool. We see that Meva is continuing to build more and more siege tanks as well. This will definitely help him secure those positions. But right now, Heresy is just struggling to get an expansion up. If the tank count gets too high, it's going to be virtually impossible for Meva to end up taking out any of those entrenched positions. So right now, Meva is just dancing around left and right, trying to find out the best, position to try to break in to his opponent's base. Meva also taking the top right, helping him just stay a little bit spread out. I'm not so sure how comfortable that makes me. Any Blue Flame Hellions that swing in are going to cause a lot of hurt, but at the same time, with the expansion spread out, it's very difficult for tanks and Thors to hit them from all angles. I think what Meva may just do is continue to build expansions one after the other. This expansion's already done? It's going to be 5 bases for the Blue Terran against 2.5 bases from Heresy. Heresy, though, is continuing to get more and more and more metal up. Siege tanks and Thors get way stronger as their numbers get high. The ability for that splash damage to obliterate clusters of Marines and Marauders becomes absurd, to the point where the Marine and Marauder practically don't even exist in the battles anymore. They just evaporate in instants. But if we come to that unit tab, we see that at around 70 SCVs and 5 orbital commands, we're seeing that Meva is rapidly approaching macro heaven mode. In the income tab, we see that the blue player certainly has a substantial lead in that income when compared to the Microsoft red opponent. Looks like Meva trying to find an angle where he can work in. And it looks like, this blue force in the center is trying to get everything out of position. You're seeing Heresy having an increasingly tough time spreading his tanks in the appropriate angles. But thanks to those sensor towers, he's getting a good sense of where all his opponent's units are located. Entire, complete coverage in the center of the map. Meva starting to sneak around. Constant scans going on by the EA Terran, trying to find a good angle to come in. Both these players are Master League players. All the players in EA vs. Microsoft are Masters, except one. These teams have to be submitted 1 week in advance before the games get played, so that way teams know who they're playing against and how to prepare. Heresy also has a lot of Ravens up. This is going to be so critical. Throwing down those point defense drones annihilate any sort of Marauder force for just a brief period of time, and that's all you really need. But oh my god, you guys, you know what my favorite kind of dancing is? Do you know? Where is it? A battle cruiser is incoming, as well as a battle. The max Terran player Meva floating 2k minerals, gonna run his army in, trying to pick off some sort of positioning, and now that he has lost a little bit of the food, he can begin burning through that cache quickly, replacing the fairly not so useful Marines with those nice tasty battle cruisers, and a very nice snipe. Looks like he barely manages to get the tank, and the sensor tower falls as well. The siege tank count for Heresy is enormous, but he's starting to get a slowly cracked position. Heresy looks like he's scouting up here. Couple of Blue Flame Hellions could cause a lot of hurt. Does he have the Blue Flame upgrade? No! He forgets the Blue Flame upgrade, but in the meantime, shows that he doesn't even need it. This is the danger of those mech forces getting a little bit too high. And the siege up. Now Heresy is increasingly posing an incredible imminent threat to this expansion from Meva. And it's going to be dangerous. But keep in mind, siege tanks are not so good against battle cruisers. But it looks like Meva sees the force here at the left side. Uh-oh. Oh, no. With the use of that handy-dandy watchtower. Oh, my gosh. The blasting bears, concussive shells away. Oh, the orbital command gets sniped. A huge win there for Meva. The point defense drones go down. The siege tanks siege up. But of course, those little addicts, the Marauders, continue to take that stim upgrade and sprint at about the speed of an Olympian. But of course, it's an Olympian in a big, scary, heavy suit. The CEO of DreamHack could not run that fast in his Marine costume. In the bottom left, we see Heresy trying to take another expansion, trying to replace his fallen expansion. His siege tank count is enormous. 19 siege tanks. Scans continuing to plop down for the blue player from EA. But Meva is in so much trouble right now. Or excuse me, Meva is in such a good position right now. Heresy is the one who's looking to be in a little bit of danger town. As we see, Heresy is doing a good job keeping some of his positioning up, but one slip up, and immediately we see that hole gets completely crushed. And now it looks like with his siege tank count high enough, he can defend the right flank, begin trying to secure himself some gold bases. But he's starting to get nervous. It looks like, oh, Marines and Marauders trying to sneak up on the backside, and it looks like the orbital command will not fall. That's what happens when the siege tanks are in the correct positions. But again, Meva doing great jobs hitting from all sides and doing some long distance mining. Yeah, that's what we're going to call it. And in the meantime, oh, ladies and gentlemen, get your hands together because it is a party time up in Camp Meva. The gold expansion from Heresy continuing to remain unoperational. Lifting, landing, playing musical chairs, but he has no friends to play with. He's just sitting up and standing down and knowing he's in trouble. In the meantime, it looks like Meva continuing to amass battle cruisers. Ugh, look at those beautiful upgrades continuing to plant down. Thus far, Meva has completely disabled his meching opponent's ability to establish any aggressive attack. Heresy has not moved out once this entire game, but keep in mind, just a single attempt to move out can be devastating. Oh, we see Banshees coming in the way. It looks like Heresy is aware that the Marauder count is too damn high from the opponent, and he could easily begin taking out good positions using the Banshees to eliminate Marauders, eliminate tanks, get himself in good spots. There's another scan. It is almost as though Meva has access to Heresy's Facebook. He is aware of everything that is going on. Small Marauder numbers, not huge attacks, just little tiny pokes and prods. Picking off a few workers here, a few workers there. Uh-oh. Looks like the macro hard motto of Team Microsoft is coming true, but not nearly as important as positioning in this game. We see those long-distance mining SCVs continuing to do great work. And no blue flames still going to be a huge issue for him in a moment. The siege tank upgrades at 0-0 as well. A lot of Marine Marauder on the field. The battlecruiser count is still... Oh no, it's getting revealed. Oh no, oh Meva, who's just been happily hitting the BC buttons, already at +2 upgrades for those battlecruisers. And what do you do now as Heresy? Well, you build turrets. And Heresy, as we can see, is quite broke. His main is mined out. His natural is running low. EGAD, gasp, etc. And it looks like Meva is going to go for it. Ooh, Meva losing a lot of units for virtually nothing. There's the point defense drones. Looking a lot like a laser light show from 1991. But unfortunately, the laser light show ran out of batteries. And it looks like some very nice strikes with those Yamato cannons, dealing some massive damage. Nothing here can shoot up. Oh no! Oh, Microsoft Terran Heresy in a lot of trouble. He's going to unsiege and pull back, trying to find some way to defend. More turrets continuing to be planted. Are there any defenses possible? It looks like some Vikings have been planted, but he's going to have to micro hard and macro hard if he wants Microsoft to win this battle. And there goes down the third expansion yet again. Keep in mind, Heresy still has a gigantic army. Heresy's army is still larger than his opponent's. It's the worker supply where Meva is really ahead. Trying to pull back those Vikings, picking off one battlecruiser, not pulling back the remaining Vikings. Losing a few more Vikings, but the battlecruiser count is getting alarmingly low. Right now, there's only 4 battlecruisers. Notice how I use the word only. It must be true. There's only 4 battlecruisers. But considering the Viking count is going up, only 4 might make sense in a minute or two. And there goes the continued pressure force. The Banshees doing as they're expected to, continue to rip apart that Marauder force, but it looks like the battlecruiser count is actually not in a good condition. The Vikings are continuing to advance forward, and the tank count is so awesome. This is like that boxer, that is many tanks, yes, moment. And yes, that is many tanks. The Vikings continue to try to pull back. Where are those reinforcement Vikings? They're loitering! They're loitering, they're not doing anything. They're being truant, skipping school. The battlecruisers planted over the siege tanks. Banshee tank does not perform well versus battlecruiser. Heresy with no mining expansions against a torrent of every kind of unit in the Terran book is looking in a very precarious position. The gold expansion may fall for Meva, but BCs are here to rule the skies. A couple of Vikings try to do their tough guy impersonations, but unfortunately they are no John Travolta. This is not Greece, and they are now dead. Oh, once the instant unsiege occurs, Meva darts forward, picking off everything. And it looks like Meva is inches away from marking the first win for his team, Team Microsoft. Oh, the GG! We see that, Team EA has managed to successfully strike a win. And that means that no longer do they have to wear the 0 by themselves. No. The score is now tied 1-1 in EA versus Microsoft. It's time to go on to game number 3 to find out who will win this match.